A night of unsettling fear working the late night shift at a 24-hour retail store isn't for everyone. The long hours, the eerie quiet, and the occasional strange customer can make it a challenging experience. But for one employee, a typical night shift turned into a terrifying encounter that they would never forget. This is their story, retold in simple words to capture the events that unfolded over those fateful hours. It was an ordinary night, or at least it seemed that way at first. The store had its usual calm atmosphere, with only a handful of customers wandering the aisles. Most late-night shoppers were either night owls picking up last-minute items or people looking for a quiet place to pass the time. The employee on duty, a young person named Alex, was used to these quiet shifts. They found the stillness soothing most nights, even if it felt a bit lonely at times. That night started like any other. Alex was busy stocking shelves in the cleaning supplies aisle. They had a cart filled with products to put away and were focused on their task. Around 2 a.m., the familiar ding of the automatic doors caught Alex's attention. A man walked in, and immediately Alex noticed something unusual about him. The man was wearing an oversized hoodie with the hood pulled tight around his face. It wasn't cold outside, so the choice of clothing felt strange. He didn't grab a shopping cart or basket, which most customers usually did, even if they were just browsing. Instead, he began walking slowly through the store, his movements aimless and deliberate. It seemed like he wasn't there to shop, but rather to observe. Alex couldn't quite put their finger on it, but something about him felt off. At first, Alex tried to ignore the man. Customers came in all shapes and sizes, and it wasn't their job to judge. But as Alex continued working, they started to feel uneasy. Every time they glanced up from their task, they noticed the man was closer. He seemed to be following them, always at the end of the aisle where Alex was working. His presence wasn't aggressive, but it was unnerving. He didn't seem to be shopping or looking for anything in particular. Instead, he was just standing there, staring. Alex's heart began to race. They tried to shake off the feeling and focus on their work. Maybe the man was just lost or waiting for someone. But the longer it went on, the more unsettling it became. The store's quiet atmosphere amplified every sound. The soft hum of the fluorescent lights, the squeak of Alex's cartwheels, and the faint shuffle of the man's footsteps as he moved closer. Finally, Alex decided they couldn't ignore it anymore. Gathering their courage, they walked over to the man and asked, "Excuse me, sir. Can I help you find something?" The man didn't reply. He simply looked at Alex and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was slow and unsettling, like he was enjoying some private joke that Alex didn't understand. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away, disappearing into another part of the store. Alex stood frozen for a moment, unsure of what to do. Their gut told them something wasn't right, but they didn't want to overreact. After all, it was just a smile. Creepy, yes, but not a crime. Alex decided to keep an eye on the man from a distance. They continued stocking shelves, but made sure to stay aware of their surroundings. A few minutes passed, and Alex didn't see the man again. They started to think maybe he had left the store or was just wandering around harmlessly. But then, a strange noise caught their attention. It was a faint rustling sound coming from the back of the store, near the storage area. Feeling a mix of curiosity and apprehension, Alex decided to check it out. The storage area was off limits to customers, so if someone was back there, it would be a serious issue. As Alex approached the back of the store, the noise grew louder. It sounded like someone moving around, shuffling boxes or bags. Alex's palms were sweaty as they pushed open the door to the storage room. The room was dimly lit, with shelves stacked high with inventory. At first glance, everything seemed normal. But as Alex stepped further in, they noticed something that made their stomach drop. One of the storage room doors, which led to a small staff-only area, was slightly ajar. That door was always supposed to be locked. Alex's mind raced. Had the man somehow gotten back here? Was someone else in the store with him? Feeling a surge of fear, Alex decided it was time to call for help. They stepped out of the storage room and picked up the store phone to call their manager, who was on call for emergencies. As they explained the situation, their voice trembled. The manager assured them they would be there in a few minutes and told Alex to stay near the front of the store until they arrived. Alex waited by the checkout area, their eyes scanning the store for any sign of the man. Minutes felt like hours as they stood there, heart pounding. Finally, the manager arrived, along with a security guard. Alex explained everything that had happened, from the man's strange behavior to the noise in the storage room. The security guard immediately went to check the back of the store while the manager reviewed the security camera footage. What they discovered sent chills down Alex's spine. The footage showed that the man in the hoodie hadn't entered the store alone. As he walked in, another figure dressed in dark clothing had slipped in behind him, almost unnoticed. This second person had stayed out of sight, heading straight for the back of the store. It was clear now that the two were working together. The security guard searched the storage room and staff area but found no one. It seemed the intruders had left, but the thought of what could have happened lingered in the air. The manager reassured Alex that they had done the right thing by calling for help, but the experience had shaken them deeply. After that night, Alex decided they couldn't work the graveyard shift anymore. The fear of what might have happened was too much to bear. The incident left everyone at the store on edge. New security measures were put in place, and employees were advised to stay vigilant during late-night shifts. As for Alex, they moved to a daytime position and tried to put the experience behind them. But the memory of that man's unsettling smile and the realization that he hadn't been alone stayed with them. It was a reminder that even in the quietest moments, danger can sometimes lurk just around the corner. In the end, the story of the midnight shopper became a cautionary tale among the staff. It was a chilling reminder to trust your instincts and never ignore that uneasy feeling in the pit of your stomach. For Alex, it was a night they would never forget, and one that changed the way they saw the world forever. The haunted dressing room in a quaint little town. There was a small boutique nestled inside an old, historic building. The shop was known for its charming decor and unique clothing. From the outside, the building looked lovely, with ivy climbing up its brick walls and flower pots sitting on the windowsills. But the building had a long history, and with that history came whispers of strange events. Among the employees, there was one story that stood out the most, the tale of the haunted dressing room. It started as a few strange occurrences. Customers would sometimes come out of the dressing rooms looking unsettled. They would mention feeling sudden chills, as though someone had opened a window, even though there were none. Others spoke of a cold spot that seemed to follow them as they tried on clothes. Some even reported feeling a light touch on their shoulder or arm, only to turn around and find no one there. The employees would nervously laugh it off, blaming faulty air conditioning or overactive imaginations. The store manager, a practical woman named Emma, didn't believe in ghosts or anything supernatural. She dismissed the stories as people letting their imaginations run wild. Emma had worked in retail for years and knew customers could sometimes exaggerate. She figured the odd sensations in the dressing rooms were due to drafts or old building quirks. However, as time went on, more and more people reported the same unsettling experiences. One day, a regular customer named Sarah came out of the dressing room pale and shaky. I felt someone touch my shoulder, she stammered, but there was no one there. I even checked the mirror, and it looked like a shadow moved behind me. Emma tried to reassure Sarah that it was probably just her imagination, but deep down, she started to feel uneasy. Could so many people be imagining the same thing? The employees also began to notice strange things. One night, as they were closing the store, an employee named Lily was tidying up the dressing rooms when she heard a faint whisper. At first, she thought it was one of her coworkers playing a prank, but when she looked around, the store was empty. Lily quickly finished her task and left, refusing to talk about what she heard. Another employee, Mark, swore he saw a shadow move across the floor one evening when no one else was around. Despite these stories, Emma refused to believe anything supernatural was happening. "It's an old building," she said. "Old buildings creak and groan. Drafts happen. Shadows are just tricks of the light." She didn't want to scare her staff or customers, so she brushed off the stories and encouraged everyone to focus on their work. But her skepticism was about to be tested. One evening, after the boutique had closed and everyone had gone home, Emma stayed late to finish some paperwork. The store was quiet, and the only sound was the soft hum of the air conditioning. As she worked, she noticed a strange feeling in the air, a heaviness she couldn't quite explain. She shook it off, telling herself it was just her imagination. Around 10 p.m., Emma decided to tidy up the dressing rooms before leaving. As she walked into the area, she felt an odd chill. The temperature seemed to drop suddenly, making her shiver. She laughed nervously and muttered, "I'm just tired, that's all." But then she heard it, a faint, muffled sound. It took her a moment to realize it sounded like someone crying. Emma froze. Her heart began to race as she listened closely. The crying seemed to be coming from one of the dressing rooms. Gathering her courage, she walked up to the door and knocked softly. "Hello, is someone in there?" she called. The crying stopped instantly. There was no response. Emma hesitated, then opened the door. The room was empty. She felt a wave of unease wash over her. Maybe I'm imagining things, she told herself. But as she turned to leave, she noticed something strange in the mirror. For a brief moment, it looked like a shadowy figure was standing behind her. When she whipped around, no one was there. Emma quickly gathered her things and left the store, her mind racing with questions. The next day, Emma decided to review the store's security footage. She wanted to prove to herself that there was a logical explanation for what she'd experienced. As she watched the footage, everything seemed normal at first. Customers tried on clothes, employees helped them, and the day went on as usual. But then, something caught her eye. In one clip, a customer was standing in front of the dressing room mirror, trying on a dress. For a split second, a dark, shadowy figure appeared in the mirror behind her. The figure didn't have distinct features, but it looked like it was reaching out toward the customer. Emma rewound the footage and watched it again. The shadowy figure appeared and disappeared so quickly that it could almost be missed. But it was there. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. She continued reviewing the footage and saw similar occurrences in other clips. The shadowy figure always appeared in the mirrors, standing behind customers or moving slightly as if watching them. Sometimes it seemed to reach out, but it never touched anyone. Emma couldn't deny it anymore. Something strange was happening in the dressing rooms. Over the next few weeks, Emma tried to find a logical explanation. She called in a maintenance team to check for drafts, faulty wiring, or anything that could cause the strange sensations and shadows. They found nothing unusual. Emma even tried to ignore the stories, but the occurrences became more frequent. Customers continued to report cold spots, whispers, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. Word began to spread about the haunted dressing room. Some customers came to the boutique out of curiosity, hoping to experience the paranormal for themselves. Others avoided the store entirely, too frightened by the stories. The employees tried to keep a brave face, but many of them were genuinely scared. Lily refused to close the store alone, and Mark started bringing a flashlight to work, just in case. Emma's skepticism had completely faded. She began researching the history of the building, hoping to uncover some clue about the strange occurrences. She discovered that the building had been around for over a century and had served many purposes over the years. It had been a family home, a boarding house, and even a small theater at one point. But there was one piece of history that stood out. In the 1920s, the building had been a dressmaker's shop. According to old newspaper articles, the dressmaker's apprentice, a young woman named Clara, had died tragically in the building. The details were unclear, but some accounts suggested she had fallen down the stairs. Others hinted at something more sinister. Emma couldn't help but wonder if Clara's spirit was somehow connected to the strange events in the boutique. Determined to get answers, Emma decided to bring in a paranormal investigator. The investigator, a woman named Grace, arrived one evening with a team and a variety of equipment. They set up cameras, audio recorders, and electromagnetic field detectors in the dressing rooms. The employees watched nervously as Grace conducted her investigation. Over the course of the night, the team captured several unexplained phenomena. The audio recorders picked up faint whispers and the sound of crying. The cameras caught brief glimpses of shadowy figures in the mirrors. At one point, one of the detectors lit up suddenly, as if responding to an unseen presence. Grace concluded that there was definitely paranormal activity in the building, though she couldn't say for certain what was causing it. After the investigation, Emma decided to make some changes. She added brighter lighting to the dressing rooms and placed small charms and crystals that were said to ward off negative energy. For a while, the strange occurrences seemed to lessen. Customers stopped complaining as much, and the employees felt a bit more at ease. But the peace didn't last. The shadowy figure in the mirror returned, and the whispers and cold spots became more frequent. Customers continued to leave the dressing rooms looking unsettled, and some refused to come back. The boutique's reputation suffered, and business began to decline. Emma tried everything she could think of, but nothing worked. A year later, the boutique closed its doors for good. The building sat empty for months before being rented out to another business. But the stories of the haunted dressing room didn't fade. Former employees and customers continued to share their experiences, passing the tale down to new generations. To this day, people still talk about the ghost in the mirror, wondering if Clara's spirit still lingers, watching and waiting in the old building's dressing rooms. The mystery of the stockroom at a large retail store. The stockroom was always a busy and messy place. Boxes were stacked high, making it hard to move around. Narrow pathways weaved between the towering piles of merchandise, and things were often misplaced. Most employees didn't think much of it, they were used to the chaos. But for one new employee named Jake, something didn't feel right. From his first week on the job, he began to notice that items were disappearing from the stockroom without any explanation. It started with small things, a box of batteries here, a pack of socks there. At first, Jake thought it was just mistakes in inventory or perhaps other employees accidentally misplacing things. But as the weeks went by, the problem grew. Entire pallets of goods, containing expensive items like electronics or large household goods, started to vanish without a trace. Jake couldn't ignore it anymore. He decided to speak to the store manager, Mr. Collins. Collins, have you noticed items disappearing from the stockroom? Jake asked one afternoon. The manager sighed and nodded. Yes, Jake, I've noticed. We've had this issue for a while now. I'm almost certain it's theft, but I can't figure out how it's happening. The cameras show nothing unusual, and the stockroom is locked at night. Jake frowned. Maybe it's someone on the inside. An employee? Mr. Collins shook his head. I've thought about that too, but it doesn't make sense. None of the employees act suspiciously, and we've done random bag checks. Whoever is doing this is very clever. Despite the manager's explanation, Jake couldn't let it go. Something about the whole situation seemed off, and he wanted to figure it out. He decided to pay closer attention during his shifts and keep track of anything unusual. Over the next few days, Jake began to observe the stockroom more carefully. He noticed how easy it was for things to get lost in the towering stacks of boxes. The disorganized state of the stockroom made it the perfect place for someone to hide or take things without being noticed. But Jake couldn't figure out how they were doing it without triggering the cameras or getting caught by security. One evening, Jake overheard two coworkers talking about the stockroom. "Did you hear about the missing TVs last week?" One of them whispered. "Yeah," the other replied. "It's creepy. It's like the stuff just vanishes into thin air." "How does that even happen?" "I don't know," the first coworker said, "but I've heard rumors. Some people say the stockroom is haunted." Jake rolled his eyes but couldn't deny that the idea intrigued him. A haunted stockroom. It sounded ridiculous, but at the same time, nothing about the disappearances made sense. Could there really be something supernatural going on? Jake decided to stay late one night to see if he could catch anything unusual happening. He told Mr. Collins he wanted to do a thorough inventory of the stockroom and offered to stay after hours. The manager agreed, grateful for Jake's dedication. As the store closed and the other employees left, Jake grabbed a clipboard and headed into the stockroom. The room was eerily quiet without the usual hustle and bustle of the daytime. The dim lighting cast long shadows across the walls, making the space feel larger and more intimidating. Jake shook off the unease and started his inventory. At first, everything seemed normal. Jake counted boxes, checked labels, and marked items off his list. But as the hours passed, he couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone. Every so often, he thought he heard faint rustling noises or felt a sudden draft of cold air. He tried to brush it off as his imagination, but the uneasy feeling grew stronger. Around midnight, Jake was inspecting a stack of boxes when he heard a soft rustling sound behind him. He froze and turned around, but there was nothing there. "Probably just a rat," he muttered to himself, trying to stay calm. He grabbed a flashlight and followed the sound to a corner of the stockroom. The rustling grew louder as he approached. His heart pounded in his chest as he reached the stack of boxes where the noise was coming from. He slowly moved a box aside, shining his flashlight into the dark space behind it. Suddenly, a hand shot out from between the boxes and grabbed his wrist. Jake screamed and yanked his hand back, stumbling away from the stack. He tripped over a box and fell to the floor, his flashlight rolling out of his grasp. Scrambling to his feet, he grabbed the flashlight and shined it toward the boxes, but the hand was gone. The boxes were perfectly arranged, as if nothing had happened. Panic. Jake ran out of the stockroom and alerted the security guard on duty. Together, they returned to the stockroom, but there was no sign of anyone else. The boxes were still neatly stacked, and nothing seemed out of place. The security guard checked the cameras, but they showed nothing unusual. The incident left Jake shaken, but it also made him more determined to figure out what was going on. He began to research the store's history, hoping to find clues about the stockroom. He discovered that the building had been a warehouse before it became a retail store. According to old news articles, there had been an accident years ago where a worker had gone missing. The story was never solved, and the worker's body was never found. Jake couldn't help but wonder if the missing worker had something to do with the strange occurrences in the stockroom. Was it possible that their spirit was still lingering in the building? Or was someone using the story as a cover for theft? Determined to get answers, Jake convinced a few coworkers to help him investigate further. Together, they decided to set up hidden cameras in the stockroom to monitor it overnight. They also marked certain boxes with invisible ink to see if they were being moved or taken. The next morning, the group reviewed the footage. At first, everything looked normal. But around midnight, strange things started happening. Shadows moved across the room, even though no one was there. A few boxes seemed to shift on their own, and at one point, a faint figure appeared in the corner of the screen. It was blurry and hard to make out, but it looked like a person. Jake and his coworkers were stunned. The footage seemed to confirm that something paranormal was happening in the stockroom, but it didn't explain the missing items. They decided to take their findings to Mr. Collins. The manager was skeptical but agreed to watch the footage. After seeing the strange occurrences, he reluctantly admitted that something unusual was going on. "I don't know what to make of this," he said, "but we need to figure out what's happening. If customers find out about this, it could hurt the store's reputation." Over the next few weeks, the group continued their investigation. They set up more cameras and sensors in the stockroom, hoping to catch clearer evidence. Meanwhile, Jake dug deeper into the store's history. He found more reports of strange incidents, including employees hearing voices or seeing shadows in the stockroom late at night. One night, Jake stayed late again, determined to confront whatever was behind the mystery. As he walked through the stockroom, he noticed a faint glow coming from behind a stack of boxes. Curious, he moved the boxes aside and discovered a hidden door. The door was old and rusted, with a padlock securing it. Jake's heart raced as he realized he might have found the key to solving the mystery. The next day, Jake told Mr. Collins about the door. The manager agreed to open it, and together with a few employees, they cut the padlock and pushed the door open. Inside, they found a small hidden room filled with old tools, papers, and other items from the building's warehouse days. Among the items was a journal belonging to the missing worker. The journal revealed that the worker had discovered the hidden room years ago and had been using it to hide stolen merchandise. But one day, the worker got trapped inside and couldn't get out. The journal's last entries were desperate pleas for help, but no one had found the room until now. The discovery explained the strange occurrences in the stockroom. The missing worker's spirit had likely been lingering, trying to reveal the hidden room and its secrets. After the room was uncovered, the strange events stopped, and no more items went missing. Jake felt a sense of relief and closure. While the experience had been terrifying, he was glad to have solved the mystery. The store returned to normal, and Jake earned the respect of his coworkers for his bravery and determination. The hidden room was sealed off for good, and the story of the haunted stockroom became a cautionary tale for future employees. A retail worker's nightmare. Every person who has ever worked in retail knows the challenges of dealing with difficult customers. However, there are some encounters that stand out, leaving a lasting impression. This story revolves around one such incident involving a customer who earned the infamous title of Karen. What began as a simple misunderstanding over a sale item quickly spiraled into a chaotic scene that shook everyone involved. In this detailed account, we'll explore what happened that day, how it escalated, and the aftermath that followed. The calm before the storm. It was an ordinary weekday at the store. The cashier, a young and polite employee named Sarah, was working her usual shift. The store wasn't particularly busy, and everything seemed to be running smoothly. Customers came and went, buying groceries, chatting with the staff, and generally going about their day. Then, the doors swung open, and in walked the Karen. Her entrance was hard to miss. She moved quickly, her heels clicking loudly on the floor, and her expression already set in a deep frown. She headed straight for the aisles, grabbing items with an air of determination. Sarah noticed her but thought nothing of it. Difficult customers weren't uncommon, and most situations could be handled with patience and a smile. The issue begins it all started at the checkout counter. Karen placed her items on the conveyor belt and watched closely as Sarah began scanning them. Everything seemed fine until Sarah scanned a sale item, a box of cereal that didn't ring up at the discounted price. "Excuse me," Karen said, her voice sharp. "That's supposed to be on sale. Why is it full price?" Sarah glanced at the screen and then at the box of cereal. She explained politely, "Oh, the sale price applies if you have a membership card. Do you have one?" Karen's expression darkened. "No one told me about needing a membership card." "That's ridiculous. Just fix it." "I'm sorry for the inconvenience," Sarah replied calmly. "But the discount only works with the card. I can help you sign up for one if you'd like. It's free and quick." Karen's patience, or lack thereof, began to show. "I don't have time for that. Just give me the sale price. This is false advertising." The situation escalates. Sarah remained professional, repeating her explanation. However, Karen wasn't having it. She started raising her voice, drawing the attention of other customers nearby. "This is unacceptable," Karen yelled. "You people don't know how to run a store. Where is your manager? Get them here right now." Sarah pressed the button to call the manager, trying her best to stay calm. Meanwhile, Karen's frustration grew. She began pacing back and forth, her hands gesturing wildly as she muttered complaints under her breath. Other customers started whispering, some pulling out their phones to record what was happening. The manager, Mr. Lopez, arrived quickly. He greeted Karen with a calm demeanor and asked how he could help. Karen wasted no time launching into her tirade. "Your cashier is incompetent," she began, pointing at Sarah. "She's trying to cheat me out of a sale price. This is discrimination, plain and simple." Mr. Lopez listened patiently, nodding occasionally. When Karen finally paused to take a breath, he explained the store policy regarding membership cards. He also offered to help her sign up for one so she could get the discount. This explanation didn't sit well with Karen. Instead of calming down, she became even angrier. Her voice grew louder, and her accusations became more personal. "You people don't care about your customers," she shouted. "This is why no one shops here anymore. It's a scam. You're all incompetent." The meltdown at this point, Karen's behavior took a dramatic turn. She grabbed items from her cart and began throwing them onto the floor. Boxes of cereal, cans of soup, and other groceries scattered across the aisle as she screamed. "This is unacceptable," she yelled. "I'm never coming back here again. You'll all regret this." The scene was chaotic. Other customers stepped back, unsure of what to do. Sarah, meanwhile, felt shaken but tried to maintain her composure. Mr. Lopez remained calm, asking Karen to stop throwing items and lower her voice. The phone comes out. Karen wasn't done. She pulled out her phone and began recording the employees, demanding that they fix this immediately. She pointed the camera at Sarah and Mr. Lopez, shouting about how poorly she was being treated. What Karen didn't realize was that another customer had also started filming. This person captured the entire meltdown, from Karen's initial complaints to her dramatic tantrum. Unlike Karen's video, which focused on the employees, this video showed the full context of her behavior. The aftermath: eventually, Karen stormed out of the store, but not before threatening to sue everyone involved. She left behind a mess of groceries on the floor and a shaken staff. Sarah felt overwhelmed by the experience, but her coworkers and Mr. Lopez reassured her that she had done nothing wrong. The customer who had recorded Karen's meltdown decided to upload the video to social media. Within hours, it went viral. People from all over the world saw the video, and the comments poured in. Most were supportive of Sarah and the other employees, condemning Karen's behavior. This is exactly why retail workers deserve more respect. One commenter wrote, "No one should have to deal with this kind of treatment." Others shared their own experiences with difficult customers, expressing solidarity with Sarah. The video sparked a larger conversation about the challenges faced by retail workers and the need for better treatment. Finding solace although the incident was stressful, Sarah found comfort in the outpouring of support. Her friends, family, and even strangers reached out to tell her she had handled the situation with grace. The viral video also led to discussions at the store about how to better support employees in dealing with difficult customers. Karen, on the other hand, faced widespread criticism online. Many people called her out for her behavior, with some even recognizing her from the video. The backlash was intense, and it served as a reminder that public meltdowns could have lasting consequences. Lessons learned: this incident highlights the challenges faced by retail workers and the importance of staying calm under pressure. It also serves as a reminder that kindness and patience can go a long way in resolving conflicts. For Sarah, the experience was a tough one, but it also showed her the strength of the community around her. In the end, the Karen incident became a cautionary tale, a story of how not to behave in public, and a testament to the resilience of retail workers everywhere. The employee who wasn't in was a hectic holiday season at a big department store. The store was crowded with shoppers looking for the perfect gifts, decorations, and holiday deals. To keep up with the rush, the store hired dozens of seasonal workers. These temporary employees were tasked with helping customers, stocking shelves, wrapping gifts, and working the registers. Among these workers was Emily, a friendly and hard-working young woman who was excited to earn some extra money during the holidays. Emily loved her job, even though it was fast-paced and sometimes stressful. She enjoyed meeting new people and helping them find what they needed. The festive atmosphere of the store, with its sparkling lights and cheerful music, made her feel like she was part of something special. However, not everything about her job was as cheerful as it seemed. Emily soon noticed something strange that left her feeling unsettled. It all started when Emily noticed a man wearing a store uniform. At first, she didn't think much of it. After all, there were so many new workers hired for the holidays that she couldn't possibly know everyone. The man looked like any other employee. He wore the standard uniform, complete with a name tag that she couldn't quite read. He seemed to always be around, but something about him was off. The man didn't act like the other employees. While everyone else was busy helping customers, stocking shelves, or running the registers, this man didn't seem to do anything at all. Emily often saw him standing near the registers, as if he were watching something. Other times, he would slowly walk through the aisles, his hands in his pockets, looking at the shelves but never touching anything. He never greeted customers or offered to help them. He didn't talk to any of the other employees either. It was like he was just there, observing everything. At first, Emily thought maybe he was just shy or new and didn't know what to do. She decided to keep an eye on him, just out of curiosity. But as the days went by, his behavior didn't change. He still didn't do any work, and no one seemed to give him any tasks. Emily started to wonder why he was even there. One day, during her break, Emily brought up the mysterious man to her coworkers. "Have you noticed that guy in the uniform who just hangs around?" she asked. "He never seems to do anything." Her coworkers looked at her, puzzled. "What guy?" one of them asked. "The one with dark hair and a name tag," Emily said. "He's always near the registers or wandering around the store. He never talks to anyone or helps customers." The coworkers exchanged glances and shrugged. "I haven't seen anyone like that," one of them said. "Maybe he's from another department." Emily wasn't convinced. She had worked in several areas of the store, and she had never seen him doing anything useful. She decided to mention it to her supervisor the next day. When Emily told her supervisor about the supervisor frowned. "What man?" she asked. Emily described him, his uniform, his behavior, and the places she usually saw him. The supervisor shook her head. "We don't have anyone like that on the payroll," she said. "Are you sure he's an employee?" Emily's stomach dropped. If he wasn't an employee, then who was he? Why was he wearing a uniform? And why did no one else seem to notice him? The more she thought about it, the stranger it seemed. Determined to get answers, Emily decided to confront the man herself. That evening, after her shift, Emily spotted the man standing near the registers. Gathering her courage, she walked up to him. "Hi," she said, trying to sound friendly. "Which department do you work in?" The man turned to her and smiled, but he didn't say anything. His smile was calm, almost kind, but it sent a chill down Emily's spine. She waited for him to answer, but he just stood there, looking at her. Finally, without a word, he turned and walked away. Emily watched as he disappeared into the crowd of shoppers. Emily felt unsettled. She decided to report the incident to security. Maybe they could figure out who he was. The security team reviewed the footage from the cameras. They found the man entering the store earlier that day, but something strange happened after that. The cameras never showed him leaving. He just seemed to vanish. The security team was baffled. They searched the entire store but couldn't find him. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. When she told her coworkers and friends about the man, some of them brushed it off as a prank or a mistake, but others started to share their own stories. One older employee, who had worked at the store for decades, listened to Emily's story with a serious expression. "You know," he said, "that sounds a lot like someone I used to know. He worked here a long time ago, back when I first started. His name was Mark." "What happened to him?" Emily asked. The man hesitated. "He died in an accident," he said. "It was a terrible tragedy. He was helping set up some decorations for the holiday season, and there was a terrible fall. It happened decades ago, but I still remember it like it was yesterday." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. Could the man she'd seen really be a ghost? It seemed impossible, but she couldn't explain what she'd experienced. Over the next few weeks, more employees came forward with stories about strange sightings. Some said they'd seen a man in a uniform out of the corner of their eye, only for him to disappear when they turned to look. Others said they'd felt like they were being watched when they were alone in the store. The story of the ghost employee spread quickly, becoming a local legend. Customers and staff alike shared their experiences, and the store became known as a place with a spooky secret. Some people were scared, but others found it fascinating. For Emily, it was a story she would never forget. Even after the holiday season ended and she moved on to other jobs, she often thought about the mysterious man and the strange events at the store. Whether he was a ghost or something else, one thing was clear. He would remain a part of the store's history forever.